And folks, welcome to Tommy Talk. Currently, Game 3 of the World Series is going on, but it is late here in Colorado, and they just went to extra innings. Shohei Ohtani with an incredible game, 4 for 4, including 2 round trippers, but in the bottom of the ninth, he gets caught stealing coming off the back after he was intentionally walked. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Update. The Dodgers defeat the Blue Jays 6-5 in 18 innings. 18 innings. Oh my goodness. My gosh. Listen, that's a classic World Series game right there. That is incredible. That baseball needs that kind of thing. Now, sadly, I have a feeling that a certain commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, is just stewing at home saying, oh, I wish we could have the runner on second rule in the postseason so that way we can avoid stuff like this too. Oh, people are going to be not so happy about this kind of thing, about having to wait 18 innings. But what an incredible win for the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani in this game. And here's one thing that might suck going forward, is that the Blue Jays decided after the beginning of this game where Ohtani went 4 for 4, they decided to start walking Ohtani. And I think they're going to keep doing that throughout the series, which is going to suck because now we're not going to be able to watch Ohtani cook. We're just going to see him walk. Which, listen, I'm not saying it's terrible strategy. Not the worst strategy in the world. But no one wants to see that. No one wants to see Ohtani just get walked all the time. Come on. We want to see him rip 2 home runs in this game. The guy is playing out of his freaking mind. I'm telling you. A lot of base running issues for both teams. People are going to be asking a lot of questions about that. But overall, 18 innings. Incredible stuff. I tweeted this out as well. This might be the World Series we were promised last year. Because last year, when it was Dodgers-Yankees, was like, oh, this is big for baseball. 2 great brands. It's going to be a great World Series. And then it just kind of sucked. The Dodgers just bowled them over, basically. Now, the Blue Jays aren't the same brand as the Yankees, but, in terms of baseball action, if we have more of what we saw last night, because to be fair, I fell asleep, I'm not going to lie. I was trying to stay up to give this update to you good people, and I fell asleep. Hand up, fell asleep, sucks. Actually, I woke up to it still playing and hearing that Freddie Freeman had hit the home run to win the ball game in the 18th inning. My goodness. Incredible stuff. For baseball, I would love to see the ratings. Maybe this game outrated Monday Night Football for all we know. And it should, because the Monday Night Football game stunk. The Chiefs easily beat the Commanders, who were without Jaden Daniels. Whatever. Let's get back to the rest of the show. We'll start off today's episode with what was kind of the big news story coming out of college football this weekend, and that was the firing of a Mr. Brian Kelly at LSU. On Sunday, they announced his firing out in the middle of his 4th season in Baton Rouge after a 2-3 start in SEC play and getting embarrassed by Texas A&M on Saturday. Obviously, there's a lot that can be said about this, and I mean a lot. You talk to a group of people, and they will give you as many opinions as you could ever want about Brian Kelly, as a man, as a coach, about whatever. But what can be said undisputedly is that back in, the offseason of 2021, LSU goes and gets him. And it was a huge get, massive get. And the logic behind it was, okay, at Notre Dame he did some good stuff, but he never went as far as people wanted him to. And the reason is not Brian Kelly, but it's that Notre Dame was holding him back. He gets all the resources to go all in like Notre Dame, that like LSU has compared to Notre Dame, who is held back by stuff like, being a private school and academic standards and other things like that. He can go to the stratosphere. Despite that, never wins 10 games in a season, never makes a playoff, never wins an SEC championship, and his successor at Notre Dame is more successful. He made it to the national championship last year, came pretty dang close to beating Ohio State in that game, had that nice comeback there at the end. Apparently, the governor of Louisiana in this case stepped in to help him get fired, but now they owe him $50 million. $50 million in a buyout. My goodness, there is nothing like being a fired college football coach at the biggest level, because man, oh man, oh man, oh man, you are getting money, 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 yo. Unless you do something jacked up, then that money goes down the drain, like Mel Tucker. Now, put all that aside. You wonder who the next head coach will be down on the bayou. And on top of that, we are now looking at the coaching carousel to end all coaching carousels this upcoming offseason. It is Coach Poach Apocalypse this offseason. We will have the LSU, Florida, Penn State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, and Stanford jobs all open, and that is less than 3/4 of the way through the season. And I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn doesn't fire Hugh Freeze, even though people think they will fire Hugh Freeze, because of how crowded this coaching carousel is going to be. Hey, wait a year, and then maybe we'll have a better shot at a great candidate rather than being in this log jam with all these other teams. I wouldn't be shocked. Now, the name being thrown around over and over and over and over and over again is Lane Kiffin. You almost would imagine that he's already said he's leaving Ole Miss, the way they're talking about Lane Kiffin everywhere, including my Florida Gators, where he was being talked about after they fired Billy Napier a week ago. But now the LSU job comes open. Now they're talking about him going to LSU. Everyone seems to want him. Florida wants him, LSU wants him, and Ole Miss doesn't want to lose him. I'm not convinced he's going to leave Ole Miss. I know he has a lot of ties down there in Oxford. He's put some roots down, and they're going to be willing to give him some big money. So I'm not thinking that he's going to be going anywhere, but nothing's impossible. Obviously, going to Florida, he'd be filling in the legacy of the great Steve Spurrier, who I think he reveres very much so, but LSU has more resources. There's a whole lot going into both of those. I've been the one who's been throwing Urban Meyer's name into the mix for these jobs, but that probably isn't going to happen when you really think about it. LSU might go after Dan Lanning, who they might get, to be fair. I mean, Oregon has had their coach poached before. Mario Cristobal, anyone? Willie Taggart, anybody? So it wouldn't shock me if Dan Lanning ended up at LSU. James Franklin would probably get another job. And it's going to be so many jobs open and so many ADs looking to make a splash that I would not be shocked if a certain John Gruden ends up finding a seat at the table coming into the next season. It's funny because looking back, I still remember in 2017, after Tennessee fired Butch Jones, Tennessee fans were all aching and grabbing and begging to get John Gruden to Knoxville. And that seemed like a pipe dream. Now, it seems like if almost any Power 5 school offered him a head coaching job, he would take the gig. That's how much he wants to get back into coaching. It's just a funny way how these things go. But one final thing in all of this, what is really frustrating is that there's not going to be a resolution to any of this anytime soon. We are still a month out from getting any clarity whatsoever. After Thanksgiving, maybe we'll get a couple of jobs filled in. Lane Kiffin might still be coaching Ole Miss in January for all we know. So let's just slow our rolls down for now. Is that fair to say? I think that's fair to say. Now moving on to the next big news story.
Maybe in a bigger news story, we go from a football frenzy to a black eye for the game of basketball. The FBI in the last week came down on various figures in the NBA who were involved in illegal gambling operations, most notably Terry Rozier of the Heat, who's being accused of fixing his player props by sitting himself early in games, and head coach of the Portland Trailblazers and Basketball Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, who has been openly accused of fixing charity poker games by the FBI. He was arrested for that, but he also could potentially be involved with tipping off gamblers as to essentially when he would be tanking games and when he would be holding out players. Now, there is a lot more to this scandal, including more coaches, more players, more team officials, all feeding information to gamblers and the mafia even. But in the wake of all this, it is becoming increasingly clear that there is a gambling problem in basketball that at least did not seem to be a problem prior to the legalization of sports gambling, about a little over a half decade ago. And people assume that because players and coaches were making so much money that they would be smart enough to avoid losing it all by getting involved in these gambling schemes. That's what we all assumed. Personally, I thought we'd have more college-related issues when it came to gambling, like maybe a lower-level D1 school where players were shaving points or something like that. But instead, we have seen this go down in the National Basketball Association. And one of the things that really bothers me about all this is that we can't even get clarity from what is the number one sports information outlet on the planet, ESPN. Because last time I checked, they are part of the gambling industry now. They have ESPN Bet. And listen, I'm not going to make some moral stand about gambling at all. I have sports gambled myself. I'm not going to say it's wrong or anything like that. I'm not going to make that the hill I die on. What I will say is it would be nice if the people that are giving us a lot of the sports information weren't making money on sports gambling so they could give us real, clear takes on this stuff. And what I mean by that is we get Stephen A. Smith going on television when all this was going down and saying, hey, this is the Trump administration going after the NBA. That was his message. The Trump administration is going after the NBA, which I don't really, it's possible. If there's a guy who is petty enough to do something like go after the NBA with this kind of thing, it would be Donald Trump. I'm not going to pretend like that ain't true. However, that's not really the story right now. The story is sports gambling and the issues with sports gambling in basketball. But I have to imagine if it wasn't for the fact that ESPN has a stake in this, maybe you'd be seeing Stephen A. Smith and these guys, railing a little harder on legalized sports gambling. And again, I'm not going against these companies or going against gambling as a thing. I just want the possibility and the discussion to be out there in sports media. That's all. Finally, I want to get into a tale of two young quarterbacks in the National Football League. Are the Vikings actually ready for JJ McCarthy to come back? Or is this just desperate times? Because it really, really seemed like if they wanted McCarthy to start the last couple weeks, he would have started. And now Carson came, and Carson Wentz, he's out for the season with a non-throwing arm injury. And now suddenly, JJ McCarthy is ready to go back out there, start firing back out there. If you buy that, I've got a river to sell you. Are you kidding me? We all knew that JJ McCarthy was a product of the game of telephone in the NFL. Everyone acting like the guy who didn't even average 200 yards passing in college was going to be the next great pro quarterback was lying to themselves. We all knew this. We all knew this. He had that first game against the Bears, he was really good, but after that, he's looked bad. And I think this staff is regretting not just bringing in Aaron Rodgers in the offseason when Aaron Rodgers clearly wanted to come to Minnesota. And they are regretting not swallowing their pride on that one. And now they're going to be stuck with McCarthy unless they bring someone else in. Now, on the flip side, in Cleveland, a question for Kevin Stefanski. How is Dylan Gabriel still starting over Shedur Sanders? I get that young quarterbacks need time to develop. But Dylan Gabriel ain't the guy. He just ain't the guy. And if you're not careful, very soon you are not going to be the guy, Kev. You're going to be out of here. And if the plan is to let Gabriel start until Deshaun Watson is cleared to play, the Browns may have not only lost the map, they may be wandering in the wilderness with the blind leading the blind. If the franchise cancer that is Deshaun Watson starts another football game for the Cleveland Browns while Shedur Sanders continues to languish with the clipboard on the sidelines, I can't imagine a scenario where you can reasonably justify that to fans or ownership. So Kevin Stefanski, it's time to let the big dog hunt. Time to swallow your pride, make the call to the pen, time to give the people what they want. And that is Shedur Sanders. And if not, hey, maybe a little QB swap. Sanders to Minnesota, JJ to Cleveland. If you can't stand Shedur, bring in JJ and see how the other half lives. How about that? How about we do that? Okay? Because this whole game is just dumb. You're not going to do anything this year, realistically. So why not give it a try? If Dylan Gabriel clearly isn't the guy, see if you can get the guy in Shedur. Just saying. Or trade him away. Because you're just teasing us at this point. In any case, folks, thank you all for listening and or watching. Please, or actually just watching. We don't do the audio anymore, sorry. Please subscribe on YouTube, Tommy Gann on YouTube, at Tommy SGAHAN on YouTube, at Tommy SGAHAN on Twitter, or what do you call it, X, whatever, on Instagram, on TikTok. Please subscribe, like, subscribe, leave comments, subscribe. Please subscribe. Thank you all for watching. Please share as well. I'm Tommy Gann, and this has been TOMMY, TALK. Love you all. Bye-bye.